Okay, how do I get my notes and rests on the staff, and how do I remove them? All right, so let's start with some basics. First, let's look at the menu. Where is the menu? So if you look up here, this right here is your menu. We will mostly be using the note menu. So if you click on the note, this is what you'll see on the bottom part. If I click on measure, it changes on the bottom part. And now you get a whole nother list of items to choose from. Now, if you are in the measure section and that little gray line is there, and this is what you see, you will not be able to put notes in the score. In order for you to put notes in the score, you have to make sure you click on note, make sure note is highlighted, and you know it's highlighted by that little tiny line. I don't know if you can see that. Let me make it bigger. There we go. That little line there. See, if I go to measure, you have the line here. Note, you have the line here. All right, and then of course you will see the notes. Okay, now layout. If you go continue across the menu, go across, 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 and this area here, move this back a little bit. In this area here, you're going to see another whole set of symbols. All right, right here you'll see this printer looking icon, and then right next to it is the layout settings icon. That is also another thing that you're going to be using. That's what turns on your note head letters. We'll go into that a little bit later. Zoom. If you need to, if your screen is too small, you can click on the zoom magnifying glass with the plus sign in it, or the little minus sign to make it go smaller. Okay, so those are some basics. All right, so your menu, you're going to be using either the measures here or the notes here. Make sure when you're ready to put your notes in that you're in the note, or note is selected in your menu. Okay, another thing that's important is this icon right here. Notice my score does not have this symbol in it. If I click on that symbol, you'll see that symbol there. That is a insert toggle. Do not put that on. If for any reason, and if you press the I, the letter I on your keyboard in your laptop, this automatically comes on. So make sure if you ever see this in your score, take it off. Go make sure you're in the note menu and then click on it one time, and that should remove it off of your score. Okay? Now let's talk about the score itself. Where or what is your cursor, also called the selector or the highlighter, whichever term works for you. So if you hear me say cursor or selector or highlighter, I'm talking about this little bulb thingy right here. That little bulb right there, that is the cursor, the selector, or the highlighter. So notice that the quarter rest in this measure is highlighted. It's a different color than the other three. And as I move my move my mouse around, it kind of hovers over and then highlights as I'm hovering over. But this is the one that's actually selected. Okay, so that's the first thing that you look for is your cursor, your selector, or your highlighter. All right, so how do you control it? You control it by using either the mouse pad on your laptop, an actual mouse if you have one. Your touch screen, you would either touch the arrows on your screen, all right, or if you're on a laptop, you can use the left and the right arrows on your keyboard. So if I press my keyboard arrows, I can move to the right or move it to the left. Or I can use my mouse, my little arrow here, and I can actually just click on it and that moves it over. Click on it, that moves it over, or use the keys. All right, so that's how you control the selector, the cursor, or the highlighter, whatever you want to call it. All right, now I highly, highly recommend that you turn your keyboard or your piano keys on at the bottom of your screen. Notice that you can see all these piano keys. How do you turn that on and off? Right up in this menu right here. This is how you turn it off, and this, clicking on it one more time, is how you turn it on. So if I click it, I turn it off. If I click it back, I turn it on. Now, how do you control the keys? All right, I'm going to go down here. You have an arrow on this side, and you have another arrow on this side. So I'm going to go to this arrow, not this arrow, this arrow. And I'm going to click over so you can see it goes to the very first C. So you see what says C1, that's the first C. C2, that's the second C. C3 is the third C, and so on. C4, C5. Same thing. This is the first D, D1, the second D, D2, the third D, D3, and so on. Just like on the piano keyboards back at school. Okay? So you can control the piano keys by using these arrows. So if you need to put notes in and you want to, and I highly recommend that you use the keys, which will make it easier to move back and forth depending on how big your screen is. If you're using a phone, you're not going to see that many notes. All right. So you can just click on it and move your keys over depending on where we're going to start, whether it's C1, C2, C4, D3, E, whatever. All right. So, and then of course, how do you select them? You just click on it. All right. Now, when you click on a note, it will enter a note wherever your highlight was, and then the highlight automatically moves over to the very next note. All right, I'm going to take that off. Okay, let's watch it again. There's your highlight or your selector. As soon as I press a key, it's going to jump over to the next note. See how it just jumped over? All right, so I'm going to take it off. All right, so how am I taking it off? I'm just doing undo. So like I did in one of the other videos, let me go to note. All right. Here is your undo buttons here. This is your undo, redo. So if I click on redo, it puts the note back. If I go here and I click on undo, it takes the note off. So that's one way of undoing something that you may have done, is like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Don't panic, just undo. Okay, now how do you put your notes and rests here on your staff? When you go to your note menu, now you have all quarter rest. When you go to your note menu and you just hover over the notes, it'll tell you what it is. This is a whole note, this is a half note, this is a quarter note, and so on. Okay. Now, if I want a quarter note, I just click on the quarter note and then determine, now the quarter note has been selected, it's highlighted. I don't know if you can tell, let me make it a little bit bigger. All right, so it's blue. The rest of them are black. When you see that it's blue right here, that means you know that one is selected, which means now whatever I choose here, let's say I want C4, which is middle C on the flat program and on a regular piano, C4 on a regular piano. On our keyboards at school, it's C3, but C4 is middle C. So I'm going to click on middle C, and it puts a quarter note C at the first note, or the first quarter rest, and changes that quarter rest into a quarter note. So if I wanted to put another note, I'm going to do a D4. Notice that the quarter note is already selected. It's already here. I'm going to click on the D4. Now, when I want to change them to eighth notes, here's my highlighter. That's where I want to put it. I go here to the eighth note. Click on the eighth note. Now the eighth, it takes 2 eighth notes to make 1 quarter note. So it splits that quarter note into 2 eighth notes. Okay, that's beat 3. Beat number 1, beat number 2, beat number 3. This is 1 E and A. So my highlight is here. Now that I have an eighth note, all I have to do is enter whatever note I want in the first eighth note, and the second eighth note, I'm going to use the same note. You can put another note. Okay? Now, whatever the last type of notes that you entered, it automatically changes it to those type of notes, assuming that you're going to continue to put eighth notes there. Now, what if I don't want an eighth note here? Maybe I want a whole note. Well, you can't put a whole note, or a half note, and you can't put a half note because you need 2 beats for that. So if I want to go back to a quarter note, I would go here. Now notice, I'm going to make it, notice my eighth note is highlighted because that's what it's going to put here. So I'm going to go back and change that to a quarter note, and there it is. Now those numbers that you see here like that, that's just the position of where it is on the menu. This is the first note on the menu, the second note on the menu, the third note on your menu, and the fourth note, and so on. Don't look at those numbers and think they mean anything musically, because they don't. It has just the way the program is set up. Okay? Now, when I want to put my repeat signs in, so I hope that helps. Oh, when you want to remove a note, let's say that's the wrong note. You can move this up using your arrow keys, or move it down using your arrow keys. Okay? That's the easiest way to change a note. Don't try to add another note next to it, because now you're going to have 2 notes, and like, how do I get that off? Okay. When you have 2 notes, though, just so we know, when you have 2 notes, and if you press the delete key, it's only going to delete the key that's highlighted, or the note that's highlighted. This one is highlighted, this one here. So when I press the delete key, it comes off. Now this one is highlighted. If I want to take that off, I press the delete key again, and then it moves, the highlight moves over to the next note. So that's how you can take off notes, all right, with the delete key. Okay? All right. So when I want to change in the menu to put measures in, excuse me, and if I choose measures and I add a measure, okay, now I want to go back to adding my notes. I have to go back again and click on notes to make sure my notes are there. And then I can go back in my score and enter in notes. Okay, so from the menu, basically you'll be going back and forth from the note to the measure. And then you're also going to be using your layout and then turning your keyboards on and off. Now let's go to layout, just since we're here. So when you go to layout, all right, you have all these different things that you can change the layout of your page, or edit the layout of your page. The most thing that we're going to be using are your measure numbers and your note heads. So when you go to measure numbers, basically, and always don't forget to press the save, okay? We're going to be mostly using every measure and starting numbering at 1. All right, so if we need to do anything different, of course, I'll let you know. But that's the basic 2. And then, of course, you would hit save. Very important. If you don't hit save, then it's not going to happen. Note heads. This you must do for every single score. When you click on note heads, the one I want you to look for is the one that says note names, where it has the actual note names in there. Click on that and make sure that this changes. If I click on this, see, notice that the border goes around that. There's no border around this. It's not darkened in. I'm going to click on it. Now the border is darkened in. Okay, that's how you know that is selected. This is just showing you the default color. All right, we want the default shape to have the letters in it. And then we press save. And once we press save, make sure that you go down to the bottom and hit done. Really important. And now, if you notice, you have your note names in there. That's going to make it so much easier for you. All right. Okay. So I hope this helps, just giving you an overview and some more details. All right. Now get to work.